chug, 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 Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wizard Staff Podcast. I'm your host, Blake.
And I'm Guy.
And we are two drunk novices who like to talk about EDH. We do drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly when playing children's card games. Tonight, we're talking about one of the latest sets to come out from Magic the Gathering, and that is Secrets of Strixhaven.
Ba-da-ba-bum.
So this is the second time we've been to, Strixhaven, right? And it's not the very first time. It's kind of just to remind everybody, this is a return to the plane of Arcavios, specifically the continent of Orithia, and it's centered around a magical school archetype idea, which were created by 5 elder dragons. I remember last time this was originally introduced, people referred to Harry Potter a whole bunch, and I'm just like, I'm glad people aren't referring to this as the Harry Potter set anymore, because I don't want to deal with J.K. Rowling and her bullshit anymore. So I'm glad that this has its own sort of feel and vibe, and people aren't talking about that anymore, and instead there's a lot of cool things going on in this set. There's the return of the Mystical Archive, which a lot of people said was the strongest thing about Strixhaven to begin with, were these very special printings of cards. And then there's also some special guest cards. There's also, weirdly enough, the Planeswalker of Ralzeric, but this time he is Orzhov, and so as cards were spoiled, people were like, oh, what's the story? What's the lore? And we're not going to get into the story because this is not a lore podcast, but there's a lot of interesting lore going on in here with fractured realities and alternate realities and all that. That all being said, before we actually dive into talking about the cards and what they do and what we think about them, we need to talk about what we're drinking. So Guy, what are you drinking tonight?
I pulled a bottle of white wine out of my fridge. I did not have time to prepare something cool, something flavorful for the episode, so I don't know. It is a white wine, and it's pretty generic, so that does not make it better. And that's the best I got. I had originally planned, I was like, okay, I am going to organize these notes so that they are based on each school, and then when we go to each school, so when we do the lore hold, I'm going to do a shot of Fireball. When we go to Silverquill, I'm going to do a shot of Bailey's. I was going to try and do this thematic shot per house, but I just did not have the time to do that. So dear viewer, just if you could do it in my honor, go out, get some alcohol, and just whenever we talk about a lore hold card, take a shot of something. I don't know.
Yeah, if y'all are listening and y'all are already home for the night, just have some fun with us and drink as well. I don't think we've really suggested that idea to our listeners, but if you're in a safe enough environment, just drink along with us.
It'll been 7 years, actually more, but yeah.
Damn, we're dumb. Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, I'm glad that is it at least tasty.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's fine.
Okay, good.
What are you drinking?
So I was trying to mix things up a little bit. So I'm really on a cider kick these last 2 years, and this is the Portland Cider Company, specifically their Huckleberry Lemonade variant. It is 6.1 ABV, so it's pretty decent alcohol by volume percentage for a cider. I particularly love Huckleberry so much, and I've had a lot of Huckleberry because I love it so much. And I'll crack it open right now. I've had numerous cans of this already before recording, which is never a good thing. And it's okay. I wanted more from this, if I'm being honest. I think it's more lemonade than huckleberry, and I wanted more huckleberry than lemonade. And so it's easy to
Okay.
drink. It's easy to drink, and it's got, I mean, it's accurate where it's got like berries with tart and zesty lemon, but it's mostly lemonade. Yeah. One huckleberry. That's on my own personal bias though. So I'm gonna drink this.
Yeah. Do it.
Doing it. All right, so let's get everybody up to speed. So with Strixhaven, the original set, I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time like talking about like the original mechanics versus these new mechanics. I'm just going to talk about the new mechanics. So, like the first time, it's basically an instant and sorcery centric set. There is the prepare mechanic in creatures, which are very similar to adventures. You know, you look at these creatures and half of their text box is on the left and half of their text box is on the right, and the left side talks about how this creature enters prepared or becomes prepared under a certain set of conditions, and then the right side says like it's an instant or a sorcery that's just stapled onto the creature inherently that exists like in exile. I don't know the rules, I'm not like a magic judge, but like this instant or sorcery half is like stapled onto the creature that exists, like it's a copy of the spell in exile inherently. And if it's prepared, you can
it allows
cast
you to
it.
cast a you to cast a copy of the spell. We've seen stuff like that before. I think Garf One Eye kind of did something similar, where it was like tap, cast one of these spells.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is very
Yeah,
similar,
kind of.
where it is a named spell. I believe a majority of these are spells that we know from Magic's history. There might be a handful that are like completely new spells, but I remember listening to Mark's podcast and he was saying that like they tried to do as many as they could of things that players already knew. So we'll talk about some of those, but there's some pretty spicy cards that they chose to put on these creatures.
Yes. So to break it down, because there's the 5 schools of Strixhaven. So for Silverquill, they have Repartee. Repartee are abilities appear on creatures and trigger whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature. So it's oftentimes like Orzhov auras. We'll talk about that more later. And then next up we have Prismari cards, which feature Opus. Opus abilities trigger whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell and have an additional effect if you spend 5 or more mana to cast it. So it's an additional cost. Then Witherbloom cards feature Infusion. Infusion signifies abilities that care if you have gained life this turn, which I kind of appreciate. It's like, alright, let's make life gain matter more in Commander, which typically hasn't mattered over the decades. And then Lorehold cards feature the returning Flashback. Like anyone who's played Magic for a long amount of time, you've probably heard of Flashback. It's kind of a quintessential mechanic. It's an alternative cost for instants and sorcery spells that allow them to be cast from your graveyard once. Next up, we have Quandrix cards featuring Increment. So similar to Evolve in concept, Increment appears on creatures and causes their controller to put a +1/+1 counter on them whenever they pay an amount of mana greater than the creature's power or toughness to cast a spell. And lastly, we have Paradigm, which is a quote-unquote fixed epic. If you have been playing Magic for a long amount of time, you probably have heard of Epic, and like maybe you've tried playing Epic spells every once in a while, and they're really cool cards, but when it's the only card you can cast for the rest of the game, you do it once and then you kind of lose interest and never play them again. So Paradigm is sort of like the way of Wizards of the Coast trying to like do that while also not being so steep, and like you can still kind of do a few other things and actually play interesting cards. More on that later. We will talk about the full cycle of Paradigm cards in maybe like 30-ish minutes, but for now, listeners, now that we've discussed the plane, we've gone over the major mechanics of the sets and what each of the 5 classes do, we're going to move into the commanders. the commander decks and the commanders in the main set, and then afterwards we're going to talk about all of the 99 cards, and then we're going to finish up. So we're going to try and get through as many cards as possible, and we're just going to go for it. So we are now entering the commander section, and what better way to talk about that than the commander decks, because as we know, commander is so popular now these days. Every single main set now has like 4 or 5 corresponding commander decks, right? So let's talk about those. Guy, give it to us.
Okay, so 5 decks, 5 schools. Each deck comes with 2 face commanders. So there are at least 10 new commanders among the commander decks. I don't know how you want to do it, Blake, but like I can just kind of speed read a lot of these, and then if any of them kind of stick out, we can talk about it. Sound good?
Yeah, like speed read them, and like if you have anything to say it, then like otherwise we'll move on to the next one.
Okay, we'll go by school. So we'll start with the Witherbloom. So this is green black. Dina, Essence Brewer, 1 black green, legendary creature, druid. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. 2 tap, sacrifice another creature. You gain X life and put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is sacrifice creature's power. And she's a 2/3. And then the other commander is Gorma the Gullet, 1 black green, legendary creature as frog, lifelink. Whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Gorma. Non-token creatures you control enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each creature that died under your control this turn. 1/1. I think they are both pretty generic green-black cards. I don't think either of them necessarily stand out as like really strong.
I agree. So my feedback is I like the original Dina. Dina's Soul Steeper for only black and a green for a 1/3. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Again, it sort of like makes gaining life actually matter because it gets you to a win condition. So I like the original Dina better than this new one. And at least, Guy, what do you think about this like new frog commander? Because like I feel like we have so many other great frog commanders, like especially Gitrog, especially within this color identity, where you just probably want to play Gitrog instead of this.
I think what's better about this, I guess, is if you're playing a frog deck, Gitrog is certainly the stronger choice, but this is not nearly as intimidating. So you sit down at a table, if you were to see Gitrog, you're like, oh, it's a Gitrog deck, oh my god. Whereas if you see this, you're just not going to blink an eye. Like, okay, cool. So, much less threatening, I think it's fine.
Fair enough, I totally agree. Let's move on to the next school.
Alright, so we got Lorehold. So this has Quintorius, History Chaser, 2 red-white, legendary Planeswalker, Quintorius, static ability, whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. +1, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards, then mill a card. -4, spirits you control gain double strike and vigilance until end of your turn. Quintorius can be your commander. Comes in with 5 loyalty. And then the backup is Excava, the Risen Pass, 2 red-white, legendary creature, spirit horse, flying haste. Whenever Excava attacks, return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or non-aura enchantment card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It's a 1/1 spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. And it's a 3/3. Alright, so I think these are a little more interesting only because Lorehold cards are much less traditional red-white cards where they care about stuff leaving the graveyard. They're very history themed. Many Boros commanders prior have been more focused on aggro, go wide attack. So I think that these provide, alternative routes. And I think having 5 commander decks and one of them being a Planeswalker who can be your commander is a nice touch.
I totally agree. I agree that like having a Planeswalker as a commander is a very nice like change of pace. like currently I looked it up and there are 22 cards that can be like your commander that are planeswalkers, and I'm looking at them and they're pretty spread out over the years, and so this is probably a trend that we're going to see going forward. It's just kind of nice to see these every once in a while. I don't want to see them every set, but it's nice to see them every once in a while. And then
Yeah.
I totally agree with you in terms of Lorehold is very, very different than Boros. You know, we talk about the color identity of red and white as Boros just because historically, red and white, like that's kind of like what that was first originally called. But I do appreciate how Lorehold is much more like graveyard centric, like being able to recur, like things leaving the graveyard, and that not only goes for Lorehold, but also all the other schools, where Wizards of the Coast knew they wanted the 5 schools of Strixhaven to feel different than the guilds of Ravnica, and therefore have made them all a little bit different. And I deeply, deeply appreciate that, all while not breaking the color pie, despite what some people say on the internet. And I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Silverquill. So first is Killian, Decisive Mentor, 1 white black, legendary creature, human warlock. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, tap up to 1 target creature and goad it. Whenever one or more creatures that are enchanted by an aura you control attack, draw a card. And he's a 2/3. And then we have Scriv, the Obligator. 2 white black, legendary creature, Inkling Bird, flying, Death Touch. Whenever Scriv enters or attacks, create a white aura enchantment token named Contract attached to target creature an opponent controls. The token has enchant creature, and whenever enchanted creature attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn if it's attacking one of your opponents. Otherwise, its controller loses 2 life. It's a 2/3. I like these only because the white-black from Silverquill, or the last Strixhaven set, really interested me because it was a very political-focused deck, and I think that this is following along same route. So I like how Lorehold and Silverquill have been very different from their past color combinations. So this trend is nice.
Yeah,
I like these.
yeah. This is an interesting phenomenon to me, where in the original Strixhaven we had the character of Killian, right? We had Killian, Ink Duelist, which is white and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human warlock with lifelink, menace, and spells you cast that target creature cost 2 less to cast. And players then made it very like saw that last ability and kind of thought about auras, like reducing aura costs, and then Wizards of the Coast designers saw that phenomenon and used that to then guide their creative decision making towards this new Killian Decisive Mentor. And I feel like this is a very interesting. They talked about this in the pre-release video on the official WotC web YouTube channel, like where seeing how the players reacted to this card then informed how they wanted to design Decisive Mentor. And so it's this very interesting feedback loop. I'm not entirely as someone who loves enchantments, I'm still not quite intrigued by Orzhov, aka Silverquill exclusive enchantments, but that's sort of an interesting phenomenon happening.
Yeah. Okay. 2 more schools. Prismari. So Rutha, Mastering the Moment, 2 blue-red, legendary creature, Orc Sorcerer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, create an XX blue and red elemental creature token with flying and haste, where X is the greatest mana value among instants and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. And then Muddle, the Ever-Changing, 2 blue, red, legendary creature, Elemental Otter Shapeshifter. Whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell, Muddle becomes a copy of up to one target non-legendary creature you control until end of turn, except it has Myriad. And it's a 3/3. Shapeshifter means you also get to be every creature type, right? Is that what I'm thinking of? Or...
I'd have to double check that. Or you mean Changeling?
That is what I'm thinking of. So never mind.
Yeah, so Changeling, you can be every creature type, but if Shapeshifter is in like your subtype, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a Changeling.
Right. Okay. I like Muddle. I think that's a little more interesting. Rutha is just kind of like, okay, cast instant sorcery, make big thing. Like, that doesn't seem too far off from stuff that we've seen Red and Blue do before. Muddle at least can like kind of copy other things that can maybe get like attack triggers to go off. So, you know,
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where like when I look at Rutha, the character, like the original Rutha was not interesting at all. Like, return it to your hand to like copy a thing, but like that doesn't matter. So like this new Rutha, arguably more effective in terms of like actually like power level. And then in terms of Muddle, the ever changing, you look at the art, it's this elemental otter like at the front half, and then it's this like eldritch monstrosity that which has these like centipede like legs, right? And so it just sort of reminds me of the whole thing about like Lutri being banned, and like, oh, like how dare they do this because it's an otter. And then like this was a problem because like then it also came out with like Bloomborough, which had all these cute otter arts, and then now we have Muddle, which is this like cute horror otter art. So like, I don't know, and in a way I'm glad that like the rules like ended up the way they did with like Lutri, because like now people don't bitch and complain about like Lutri all the time. I think I just went off on a weird side tangent, but anyways.
Yeah. So I'm not like wowed by either of these, but
yeah. I don't know. Muddle also reminds me of like Blade of Selves on a Commander, so
yes, that is true.
Have fun, because Blade of Selves is a fun card. It's silly.
Yes. Okay. Last two, Zimone Infinite Analysis. 1 green blue, legendary creature, human wizard. The first spell you cast with X in its mana cost each turn costs 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Zimone. Whenever you cast your first spell with X in its mana cost each turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Zimone. And she's a 0/4. And then we have Primo, the Unbounded. X green green blue, legendary creature, Fractal Wolf. Trample enters with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever one or more creatures you control with base power 0 deal combat damage to a player, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token and put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the damage dealt. Think that again, these are I'll say Zimone is very strong. I don't know if you've seen the newest Game Nights, Blake, but Zimone pops off. I was like, damn, okay. That card's good. So I think Zimone's very strong, for sure. Primo, I don't know. Like, cool. So I guess they kind of are. They're not like play a land, draw a card type green blue cards. But it also doesn't feel like super new. But yeah, Zimone is just strong.
I totally agree, yes. So any of you listeners, if you haven't seen the Command Zone podcast, specifically their Game Nights episodes, spoilers, skip ahead a minute. Alright, now that everybody's skipped ahead a minute, Zimone wins. Surprise, surprise. And we don't really see Primo the Unbounded, and yeah, it turns out Zimone's pretty good. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So that's all 10 of the face commanders from these decks. I know that there were 5 decks from last time. I mean, I think these are fine. Like, yeah. I think there's some more interesting 99 cards that we're going to talk about than the face commanders, to be honest.
I agree. I'm more excited about that. All right, next up, we have a few other legendary creatures that aren't the heads of the commander deck. They're not the secondary commanders of the commander deck, but they're still legendary creatures in the 99 that can be your commander. So I'll just read them really carefully, and you probably have overlooked them. This is Augusta Order Returned. It is 2 and a white, so it's a white commander. It's legendary creature Spirit Advisor 1/3 with flying and vigilance. Whenever Augusta attacked each player, exile a card from their graveyard. Whenever one or more non-land cards are exiled this way, put that many +1/+1 counters on target attacking creature. So, it's a mono-white commander that probably cares about +1/+1 counters. You're probably playing this in like an Anavenza Kintree Spirit deck where you want to have mono-white weenies that pump them up and make them stronger. That's probably all I have to say. Guy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say, to be honest. I was like, all right. I mean, 2 extra commanders that are in the 99, like, you know, they don't do that too often, you know. So I was like,
I still wanted to mention them because I feel like especially people kind of overlook Nev, which I feel like has a little bit more potential. This is Nev, the Practical Dean, for 2 and a green. You have a legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard 2/2, which says creatures you control with counters on them have trample. That's the most important line of text. There's also lines of text that say whenever you cast your first spell with X in its mana value, put X +1/+1 counters on Nev. So like in theory you want Nev to be in a like X Hydra deck or whatever, because Hydras are known for having like X in their mana cost. But honestly, I think Nev, the Practical Dean, is most important like for the first line of text. Again, which says creatures you control with counters on them have trample. So it's probably irrelevant in a +1/+1 counters deck. And people probably know the character of Nev better from like the previous iteration, which is Adrix and Nev, twin casters, 2 green blue for a Simic commander, legendary creature Merfolk Wizard 2/2 with ward 2 that says if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. And so I don't know the full lore reasons, but now Nev is all on his own and he cares about counters and making your countery green creatures have trample, which kind of just helps you win the game. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I'm just so fucking tired of green getting these plus or these counter matters cards. It's just like every fucking set.
Fucking what was it? Edge of Eternities. There were so many fucking +1/+1 counters green cards. Like in particular, like we had to play against Park's mono green +1/+1 counter deck. He got so much fucking good shit from Edge of Eternities. It was insane. And also, like Wits of the Coast has just been like having a hard on for like mono green +1/+1 counters. Like we also have Bristly Bill and just other bullshit. I'm just like, please, Park doesn't need any more help. He already crushes us every weekend.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I agree that I guess Nev is the better one. I did not put together that this was part of the Nev and Adrix initially, but this totally makes sense now.
Right, so now that we've talked about a lot of the commanders from the commander decks, can we talk about like some of the 99 cards from those commander decks and what they might entail?
Yeah, why don't you kind of read off this cycle of cards?
Okay, so I'll try my best to be fast and efficient about this. So, in Wooburg order, white, blue, black, red, green order, we have white, which is Igonjo, Dinosaurian, 2 and a white for a Fox Advisor 2/3 with Vigilance. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, this creature becomes prepared. And then once it's prepared, you can cast Replenish, which is, mind you, a reserve list card. Replenish is 3 and a white for a sorcery that says return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, you know me, I love enchantments so much, and this is a really hard one because generally speaking, enchantment decks also kind of overlap with Storm, where they kind of just want to like sit back and just storm off on their own. But this Gonjo just like Dinosaurian kind of forces you to attack with at least 2 creatures to make it repaired, and then you do get replenished, which is an amazing effect. I think as an enchantment focused strategy, oftentimes you're attacking with 2 things you don't mind if they die, and you just really want the replenish like active. And that's all I can say without like working myself into an absolute tizzy. Is what I'll say. I'm going to buy this card. I'm going to try it in like a Voltron deck, which mostly is known for only attacking with 1 creature. But my Gonjo asks you to attack with 2. I'm probably okay with something dying, just so I have the replenish. Alright, next up we have the blue, which is basically a 1/4 Jin Monk that says instants and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast, and that's all that really matters. The rest doesn't. And then the rest is Brain Geyser, so X and blue for sorcery. Target player draws X cards. So you could draw the cards, your opponent could draw the cards. And Brain Geyser, historically powerful card, and it's being slowed down by the fact that you need to pay 3 mana for the creature, and then however much into the Brain Geyser. Next up we have black, which is 1 black for a vampire cleric that says whenever you attack, target creature gains death touch turn, whatever that creature gains. To a player this combat, this creature gains Exsanguinate. So X black sorcery. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to life lost this way. So if you've been playing Commander for a long time, Guy, also please interject and stop me. I'm just rambling here.
Oh, so, okay, gotcha.
So Exsanguinate, like, I feel like a lot of Commander players play Sanguinate, and then they realize, oh, this is too easy of a win con, this is actually, like, really boring, and I don't want to play this. Therefore, I feel like a lot of people will play Stessian Sanguinist, and then, like, take it out of the deck. What do you think?
I mean, I think we need to kind of see these prepared cards play out a little bit more, because it does seem just so good to kind of... They're not quite modal double-face cards, but in a way they do give you the ability of like some effect and also like a spell. So, you know, I think this one is at least playable. So I think so far white, blue, black has been playable. And I think the other thing that didn't really think about until now, but like at least with the blue one, if you have infinite mana and like 6 blue mana open, I think you're able to just like win, because if you can
draw the game.
Yeah, because then you just it becomes re-prepared once you then cast it for like X equals 100. Do that like 3 times, boom, you just target all your opponents. So I think it's a pretty strong card, the blue one so far. Far, like white and blue are pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, can we also say the fact that like whatever truths can be said about the original instance and of these cards can also be said of these creatures, like if their like preparedness can be activated.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the red one though, because I want to hear your
opinions.
So this red one is Noctum Lore Spinner. It is 2 in a red for a Jackal Wizard, 3/3. Beginning of your upkeep, if a player has 1 this creature becomes prepared. And then you can then cast Wheel of Fortune. 2 in a red, sorcery. Each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards.
So to me, the biggest downside for this is the fact that it doesn't come in prepared, and you have to wait a full turn cycle. The others, you can kind of prepare them the same turn that they're there. Like they can be prepared the turn they come down. So the first 3, you're like, huh, okay. And I do like that this is looking at everyone to see if anyone has 1 or less cards, but I don't know, man. I was hoping Wheel of Fortune would make the prepared list, but this just, like, play Magus of the Wheel. It's not, like, that's just it. Like, I'd rather play Magus.
Alright, so for those of you who don't know, Magus of the Wheel is also 2 in a red, so same mana cost. It is a creature, human wizard, so also a wizard. It's a 3/3 that says, as an activated ability of 1 in red, tap, sacrifice Magus of the Wheel. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. So, Guy, how do you compare Magus of the Wheel with Lore Spin? Because they're the same mana cost, but like 1 is an activated ability, whereas 1 is an upkeep trigger.
No, I'd just rather play Magus. Magus is like kind of a guarantee that I'll be able to get to Wheel, whereas at the beginning of the upkeep, maybe nobody has 1 card in hand.
Is that also because like in theory you're in red and like you can give Magus of the Wheel haste, so like you can pay to tap sack it in that same turn? Is that also part of it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it's just much easier to get the Wheel of Fortune to go off. They try to make Wheel of Fortune variants work every here and there. This one did not work.
Wheel of Misfortune, like Park's favorite card to track.
Well, yeah, but like every couple you know, like there was also that red wheel in Modern Horizons 3 that cared about like the energy. They just make these red wheel variants.
Oh yeah.
Based on Wheel of Fortune. I'd say 90% of the time they're bad. Wheel of Misfortune and Wheel of Fortune are kind of like the best two. This is not good.
All right, we'll move on to no longer the cycle, but just another prepared card. This is Yavimaya Bloom Sage, 2 and a green for a Dryad Druid. That says at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if that creature has power 7 or greater, this creature becomes prepared, and it has Channel. So, green sorcery. Until end of turn, anytime you may activate a mana ability, you may pay 1 life. If you do, add a. So, for those of you who don't know, the original card of Channel is banned in the Commander format, and so Yavimaya Bloom Sage is sort of the way of making Channel legal in Commander. Now you have to go through the roundabout method of casting it, and then you also have to make sure that a creature's big enough. So in theory, you haven't really cheated mana too much, because in a 40 life format, Channel is just too good. That's why it's banned. And so in theory, by having a big creature out, it means you've at least invested some amount of mana and time into this. But the reason I'm bringing this up is you might expect this in the main set. No, you need to look inside the card. So there.
Yeah, I think this one's. I know I was just bitching about how Noctimon doesn't come in prepared. This feels a little better because this is actually a much more achievable way to get prepared. And Channel is also just so good. It's kind of Okay, this could not come in prepared, so I do understand that. Whereas red needs all the help it can get, so that's fine.
All right,
So I like
next.
this.
Yep,
Yeah.
I do too. Just remember it's in the commander decks, not the main set. Next up, we have Immortal Bargain, which is 1 and black and green, so 3 mana. Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice X creatures. Destroy X target non-land permanents. So it is a 3 mana sorcery. Why do I bring this up? Well, the fact that the additional cost on this says sacrifice X creatures, it doesn't say tokens. Like, so if you can easily make a whole bunch of tokens and just sacrifice 5 tokens and destroy 5 target non-land permanents. Destroy 5 like target, any of them. Like, even though it's like a downside of a sorcery, it's only 3 mana, and like you can totally easily within this color identity make 5 tokens or more or less. It's just very flexible, and I do expect to see it every once in a while and get fun.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. Cast this on your second main phase after you've attacked. Destroy anything that, you're afraid on crackback or just problematic cards. It's pretty good.
Guy, can you talk about this land cycle, and then we'll move into...
Yeah, they did it, guys. They did another good land cycle. It's like every other year. It's like, hey, there's a good new dual cycle and a dual land cycle. And so we have the turbulent lands. So I'll read the first one, which is Turbulent Fen, Land, Swamp, Forest. So it does have the basic land types on it. This land enters tapped unless your opponents control 8 or more lands. So this does mean between your 3 opponents. If the combination is 8 or more, that means that this land enters untapped. If you play this early, I guess that's when it would enter tapped. But yeah, I think these are great because they are fetchable, and you can go find them later in the game when it's kind of important to make sure that they are going to be untapped. And there's one for all enemy colors. So we got a green black, white black, blue red, red white, and green blue. Pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. So there's only 5.
I'd say after turn 4 or turn 5, depending on where you are in turn cycle, most likely these are just going to be untapped dual lands.
Yeah, that's pretty much the average math. Like, after turn 4, they're always going to be untapped dual lands, basically. And so, if you're okay with a game going 4 or more turns, this is kind of now a new stable.
Oh yeah, I think that these are like, if you were going to buy any cards, you just got to buy like this full cycle. Maybe buy 2 sets,
Yeah, honestly. Because, I mean, I've been guilty of overlooking lands that were just way too good and getting screwed by it. So don't overlook these ones. And that all being said, I feel like now we're able to move into the rest of the legendary creatures.
Yes, so these are for the main set.
Yep. So some of them are more interesting than others, so we're just going to go right through. We're going to start with white, which is Enos, Debate, Moderator, 1 and a white, legendary creature, human cleric, 1/1. When Enos enters, exile up to 1 other target creature you control, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. At the beginning of your end step, if 1 or more cards were put into exile this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Enos. So it's sort of a flicker ability. That's about it. If you have a flicker deck, it's probably either white or blue or Azorius or some color combination. I think there are better ways to do this. I'm kind of bored with Enos.
Okay. Then we're moving on to blue. So we have Jodzi, Steward of Fate, 2 and a blue, legendary creature, human wizard. Jodzi enters prepared. When Jodzi enters, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and then the prepared spell is Oracle's Gift, XX blue, sorcery, create X00 green and blue fractal creature tokens that put X +1/+1 counters on each fractal you control. I think overall, pretty mediocre. I would maybe put it into the Zamone deck just because can create fractals and it has an X cost, but not like crazy. The original Jodzi, I think, was much crazier.
Yeah, I kind of am in the same boat where unless you're like a mono blue deck or a 2-color deck with a blue that really, really cares about making big tokens, this card is kind of unimportant to you.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Oresa, Tide Choreographer, which is 4 and a blue, so 5 mana, legendary creature, Merfolk Bard. That's only a 2/2. This spell costs 3 less to cast if creatures you control have toughness 10 or greater. When it enters, draw 2 cards. I don't care about this card. Moving into black.
Alright. Arnin, Deathbloom Botanist, 2 black, legendary creature, vampire druid. Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or toughness 1 or less dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. 2/2. Yeah, this is just kind of one of those Aristocats style cards. I think it's strong, or at least it will certainly be able to find home in many decks.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a Blood Artist effect. It costs obviously a little bit more than Blood Artist, but the fact that like it kind of like scales twice as much makes up for the fact that it's more mana to cast than Blood Artist and can maybe use like probably still win you the game in certain decks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we have Maseo, Vane's New Dean. For 2 and a black, legendary creature, bird, skeleton warlock with flying. When it enters, create 1/1 black and creature token with whenever this token attacks, you gain 1 life. And then that infusion ability. So at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, return up to 1 creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. So unless you're a life gaining deck that also cares about animation, you probably don't play this card. However, if you are a life, like if your deck gains life and also wants to reanimate, this is a great card. End of story.
Yeah. I think the only thing I want to mention, because I just learned this from, again, listening to Mark's podcast, but this character was a bird, and then during the Phyrexian invasion was about to be completed, but instead the character did a spell to expel all flesh from himself to become this new skeleton bird. Oh. And that's just pretty metal.
That's pretty hardcore. Yeah. That's more hardcore than me.
Yeah. Okay. We're on to red. So this is Micah, Reader of Ruins, 3 in a red. Legendary creature, human artificer, ward, pay 3 life. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And he's a 4/4. Not bad. Like, I think it's pretty easy for red to create some treasures and things like that. So, play an instant sorcery, sack a treasure, copy the spell. Not bad. I think probably we'll see home in 99 or in the 99 of some like copy decks, just because that would be pretty easy to do. So not its own commander, but you know, a good card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seeing the overlap Venn diagram of instant sorceries with artifacts. This has a home in like a number of decks that care both about instant sorceries and artifacts. Yep. That being said, we're going to move
Yeah.
into green, which is Emil Vastland's Roamer. So 2 and a green, legendary creature, elf druid. Creatures you control, +1/+1 counters on them have trample. It feels super duper similar to, you know, the fucking new Nev, which says creatures you control with counters on them have trample, but it's technically different because this one specifies +1/+1 counters, whereas the Nev
Is it
doesn't.
really that different?
They're both.
It does the same thing. Let's be honest.
One's an elf druid and one's a merfolk wizard. They're totally different, guy. All right. Anyways, the activated ability is 4 and a green for tap. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. Play it for its first ability, like we said. You don't give a shit about it. Let's move into multicolor, which is the actual interesting part of the cards and the set. So I'm sorry for all of you listeners that have been listening 55 minutes in. This is when the set review starts to get good.
Yeah, that's how you really draw in people, is you're like, oh, I'm gonna save the best stuff for the middle of the episode to, like, you know, really, because the people who are listening now, you know, they're the real fans.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to waste 55 minutes of your time, and then we're going to talk about the good shit. All right, so to start off, the multicolor commanders. Now we're talking about like the 5 like class dragons. So in this set, we have Silverquill, the Disputant, which is 2 and white-black for legendary creature Elder Dragon 4/4 with flying and vigilant that says each instant and sorcery spell you cast has casualty 1. And even if you're like me and you've been playing for years, you need a reminder of what the fuck that means. So as you cast that spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. Whenever you do, copy the spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. So the creature can be a token, just remember that. And mostly every single goddamn creature token is at least 1 power or more. So like, you can sacrifice a real creature, or you can sacrifice like a token, which you probably don't care about. And like, you can copy some instants and sorceries. Pretty damn good. And I'm just gonna compare that to the other like original version, which was like 1 mana more. It was like a 2/5 body instead. And then it had like a beginning of combat trigger on your turn. You may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player, which is much more like politic-y. I like this new version much more because the new version of this set cares much more about instants and sorceries, and it seems much more, how do I say, thematic, whereas the 5 dragons of the original Strixhaven were less thematic. Do you agree with that or not?
Yeah, I do like how these are more thematic, that each of them gives instants and sorceries some kind of keyword. So, for example, this next one, Prismari, the inspiration, is 5 blue red, legendary creature Elder Dragon, flying, ward, pay 5 life, and instants and sorceries spells you cast have Storm. 7/7. Okay, so Storm has historically been a pretty broken mechanic. I think, you know, I don't know what to say about like blue red just getting like a Storm Enabler. Like, they've had that before. It's strong. So this just being in your command zone. Surprise, surprise. It's strong. Surprise, surprise. It's strong. So when you compare it to something like Galazeth Prismari, oh, actually, the original Galazeth Prismari was also very strong because it was kind of like a nerfed Urza. So actually, this one is not as good of a comparison as the Silver Quill one because, yeah, Galazeth Prismari was a very good card.
Yeah, like, your friend pretty much wrecked us with the original Galazeth, and I was really afraid of this as the new Urza, but like this new Prismari, the inspiration, has, at least you're going from the OG, which is 4 mana, and like the inspiration is 7 mana, but I feel like a lot of people who have been talking online recently have pointed out, like, if Prismari, the inspiration, ever lands, you're probably just fucking dead. You're probably losing the game because it's kind of like 1,000 Year Storm level shit where you probably built up enough resources in the hand to probably win once this lands. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No.
I'm afraid of both. I mean, can I just say that? I'm afraid of both Prismaris. I'm afraid of both Prismaris.
Yeah, I think this next one I think is also okay. Read the next one.
All right. So next one, oh yes, is Witherbloom the Balancer. So 6 and black green for a 5/5 legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Now, it says affinity for creatures. So a reminder, that means this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control. So let's say you have 6 creatures on board. If you have 7, maybe you have 8. But they each make this commander cost 1 generic less. So, in theory, Witherbloom the Balancer can cost as little as a single black and a single green. So that means your 5/5 Elder Dragon legendary creature can be put out for 2 mana. That is very good. That also includes commander tax, so even if this dies multiple times, as long as you have enough creatures on board, it reduces the commander tax, which is very, very good.
Yeah.
Now, there's also more to Witherbloom Balancer. It also has flying and death touch, because it's a black-green Elder Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh wait, there's even more. So, instants and sorcery spells you cast have affinity for creatures. So remember all those creatures that made Witherbloom Balancer cheaper to cast for only like 2 mana potentially? It also makes it so all those instants and sorceries cost way, way, way less for generic mana. So, when I first saw this card, I was really concerned, but as I've seen gameplay video of this commander, I've been like, okay, you need mana dorks, you need Witherbloom the Balancer to actually be cast, then you also need like instants and sorceries to be cast that are high mana value that are potentially dead cards in hand. So because you have to play both creatures and instants and sorceries at varying mana cost, like, I used to be really afraid of Witherbloom, and it's still a very good commander, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like, okay, this isn't a new CDH staple card. It's more of a, I don't know, say just, bracket forward.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those ones, I think, if you sit down and play against it, you know that it's going to be probably pretty good, but it's not like, it's not like CEDH levels good.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And, like, I remember playing in person against a original Witherbloom deck, which was 5 black and green, and then The player forgot the fact that it said activate only once each turn, so he untapped all his lands repeatedly and just like won the game. And then I got home and I was like, wait a minute, you can only do this once per turn. This motherfucker cheated. And ever since then, I was never afraid of Bellatrix Witherbloom again. But I think for a long time, I'm gonna be afraid of Witherbloom with the Balancer deck, because Affinity is a notoriously like broken mechanic within.
Yes. However, they have fixed it a bit by giving it or putting it on cards that actually have still colored mana costs, because a lot of the original ones were like on colorless cards and was like affinity for artifacts, so it's just very easy to make them cost 0. This still gives you, or it makes you say like, oh wait, you gotta pay a little mana. It's not free. You gotta pay a little. It's not free.
That's true. I'm also excited about this next dragon. Do you want to talk about it, guy?
Yeah, and I believe this was the first one that we saw.
It was.
So this is Lorehold the Historian. 3 red, white. Legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying and haste. Each instant and sorcery card in your hand has Miracle 2. So you may cast a card for its miracle cost. When you draw it, if it's the first card you draw on this turn. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Okay, so some pretty important rules about Miracle, but if you draw a Miracle sorcery, if it's still the first card you drew, you could play it. You can't. I mean, that's the case with like anything that has a miracle. So the other thing too, though, is you do have to play it kind of as you draw it. Like you have to reveal it because basically once it goes into your hand, it kind of becomes harder to distinctively prove that it was the first card you drew. So it has to basically be almost the first thing you cast. But I mean, I think that this is very interesting because so far, like all the other Elder Dragons that we've seen that have said like, oh, this is what Witherbloom gets. This is what Prismari gets for like Storm or Affinity. Those kind of like made sense thematically in terms of the original colors. This again is just kind of like, oh, this is something that Red White has not historically gotten, which just makes it a lot cooler and more interesting to build around.
I agree. So I agree where if any of you listening have never played Miracle decks or don't know what Miracle is, I encourage you to draw the first card per turn and not immediately put it in your hand, because that's what Miracle teaches you, because you need to obviously prove to a judge that you didn't put this in your hand, like choose a different Miracle card. Okay, I'd like to read the next card and then kind of ask you a question about whether or not these new cycle of 5 Elder Dragons is stronger or weaker.
Okay,
so let me do that first. So the next one is Quandrix the Proof. So it is 4 and green-blue for a legendary creature Elder Dragon with flying and trample. It's a 6/6. Itself has Cascade. So I'm not gonna read Cascade, but like basically like okay, so it's 6 mana, you basically get like a 5 mana value creature and like off the top of your deck as you exile and you
5 mana card.
Yeah,
or
5
less.
mana card or less. And you cast it for free. That's oversimplifying, but that's all I'm gonna say for now. And then it also has the additional text of instant and sorcery spells you cast from your hand, specifically from your hand, have Cascade. So, Guy, now that we read all the new dragons, all 5 of them, from the new set and more or less from the old set. I'm not going to read old Quandrix because it's boring, and I remember being like, wow, this is a piece of shit dragon. What do you think about these new dragons versus the old dragons? Because they are the center focus of the sets.
I like the new dragons more. I think thematically they're much cooler because, again, they tie back to instants and sorceries more so than the original ones did. Overall, I think they're also stronger, with maybe the exception of the original Galazeth Prismari. Maybe also the original Beladros, Witherbloom. I think those 2 kind of stood out as super strong.
Yeah, and again,
but I think among the 5
maybe.
New ones, yeah, that's it's a maybe. But yes, I do think I like these new 5 more. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. I feel like I agree with you with these 5 new Elder Dragons in this new recursion to Strixhaven are stronger and more thematically tied to instants and sorceries matters. I feel like that's because we went to Strixhaven, and at the time, based on various podcasts of Drive to Work, Mark Rosewater has said that at the time, Strixhaven was the best-selling set of Magic, which is kind of not a new trend with every new set coming out. Because there's Strixhaven, and then there's Lord of the Rings, and then there's Final Fantasy, and there's all these sets within recent years that are topping sales within other sets. So it's no surprise they returned to Strixhaven because at least within the relative scope of time, they were this is a great money maker, let's return to this one. Yeah. I like it. I like the dragons. I like the way that they improve them. I like the way that it's much more instance and sorcery themed, magecraft wise. I like to then move on to perhaps the less interesting commanders, but I just like to play through.
Yes. So, okay. Fun fact to the listeners, but Blake and I did do a Lorwyn episode, but we had so many audio technical difficulties that it will never see the light of day. I only say that because there were 5 legendary creatures in that set that were students of Strixhaven, who now we get to see again on Strixhaven. The first one being Abigail. So this is Abigail, Poet, Lorette, 1 white, black, legendary creature, bird, bard, flying. When you cast a creature spell, Abigail becomes prepared. And then the prepared spell is Heroic Stanza, 1 white and or black, or white, sorry. 1 hybrid white. Oh my god. Do not edit this out, because the people need to know. I cannot, for the life of me, say this. Okay, here we go. Heroic Stanza, 1 and a white or black sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So I think that this is not terrible. I mean, she is 3 mana, so she can come down pretty early. Casting a creature spell, pretty easy. Then for 2 mana, you can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, so you could buff her up. Cast another creature spell. Then she becomes re-prepared. So depending on how late in the game it is, you could probably like play her, play a creature, she becomes prepared, cast that spell, so she becomes unprepared, cast a new creature, she becomes prepared, and have this like cycle of like going back and forth, allowing you to pump your board. So I don't think she's that bad.
Alright, you care much more than I do. I don't really care about either of them.
I don't care a ton. I just was like, it's not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
We can move on.
So next up we have Nita Forum Consolator, 1 and white and black for a 2/3. Legendary creature, human advisor. When you cast a spell you don't own, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Okay. And then it has an active ability of 2 and sacrifice another creature. Exile target instant and sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. You may cast this turn and mana of any type spent to cast that spell. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. Activate only as a sorcery. So there's just so many restrictions on this card that even though it's a 3 mana 2/3 human advisor with like a reasonable like first ability static, like the activated ability just sucks ass, and I want to move on. Let's talk this.
Alright, Sinar, Unfinished Genius, blue-red, legendary creature, goblin sorcerer, enters prepared, tap, create a treasure token, activate only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, and then the prepared spell is Wild Idea, 3 blue-red, sorcery, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. I mean, it's not also not like terrible. I feel like I'm not gonna have as much to say because it's like, hey, enters prepared late game. Maybe I could go tutor my best instant or sorcery.
I mean, how much can you mess up with a tutor?
Yeah, and it can be your commander. So like, you know, not a game changer, but you know, it's fine.
Alright, Zephi the Tempest, 5 and blue-red for legendary creature, human bard sorcerer. During each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. It's a 5/7. So at face value, this doesn't seem like too like extreme, right? But like then you look at like Zephi Thunder Conductor for 2 blue and a red. Magecraft. Whenever you cast and copy an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. That spell has been 5 or greater. Create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. That spell's mana value is 10 or greater. As by Thunder Conductor deals 10 damage to a target opponent chosen at random. I feel like the original is better than the new version.
Yeah, I mean, for 7 mana to be able to cast 1 instant, I think this would be better if it was like 1 strength each turn. You could cast an instant or sorcery for free. Like for 7 mana, like come on, let me do more. So I think this one's fine.
Next up we have Lech, the Loafing Pest, and it is 1 and black-green for legendary creature pest. 3/4. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 on each pest, bat, insect, snake, and spider you control. And so you be like Blach. Oh right, he's a snuggly little boy, and you will probably think about like Blex if you read the flavor text, and you may be reminded of like this looking dude. I don't know. Blech is more interesting. I guess.
Yeah, I think fine. Okay, really Lewin. Yeah, Lewin, exchange student, 2 black, green, legendary creature, elf druid, enters prepared, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Lewin becomes prepared, activate only as a sorcery. And then the prepared spell is Pest Friend. which is a black or green sorcery. Create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with whenever this token attacks, you gain 1 life. So, I mean, this feels pretty green-black heavy, having creatures in your graveyard, exile them, becomes prepared, create a token, like, it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of pest, it's weird how they like changed like what pest tokens do. It kind of adds confusingness to the average player. I don't know if we really talked about that yet, but they changed what pests do, and I'm not a fan of it.
I think they changed what every single mascot of the colors was supposed to do, except for the blue-green ones. Okay, next one is Azaza, Mage Tower Captain. Red-white, legendary creature, Djinn Sorcerer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may tap 3 untapped creatures you control. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I like that. It's a 2 mana. Again, kind of goes in some color identity that historically hasn't copied a ton of instants and sorceries. I feel like the game plan with this is you maybe make like a go wide, so create a lot of tokens, cast like an instant or sorcery spell that's going to pump you tap your 3, you copy it so you get like double, cast another, tap another 3, double. So that's kind of what I'm thinking personally. So like could be like a Voltron-esque style commander if you're just kind of going the instant and sorcerer route of like pumping them up.
Yeah, I've seen a number of people who are like, all right, I took all the commanders from this set and commander set, and I've tried to make them as powerful as possible, and Aziza did not make the cut. That's what I've seen from them say.
Okay.
All right, next up, I would like to read Cural. So there's Cural history buff, and I'm not going to read the rest of the card because the original like Lorwyn Eclipsed version of Cural Attentive First Year, which was much more relevant towards the format, was 1 add hybrid Boros, legendary creature, vampire cleric, 3/3. Tap 2 untapped creatures you control. Copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only each turn. And history buff doesn't matter because it's a bad card. They're both vampire clerics. They're both like Boros, but Attentive First Year from Eclipse is much more relevant. Let's move on.
Actually, there are Lorehold cards, not Boros cards. Okay, now we're moving on to Berta, Wise Explorator. 2 and a green. 2 green blue. Legendary creature, a frog druid. Increment. Oh my god. We talked about what that does. Whenever one or more. It took me so long to understand what increment meant. Like, I was like, oh my god, like, this is like math. I
can't do it.
I'm not gonna play an increment card. No, I'm okay. Okay, so it has increment, and then whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Berta, add 1 mana of any color. X, tap, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, and put X +1/+1 counters on it. So, I mean, you play maybe some spells to get some mana, use that mana to put into Berta's, like, mana sink ability, create a fractal token. I guess that's the play pattern. What Wizards has been printing a lot of like blue-green frogs lately, so I feel like I mean Bird is pretty strong, I'd say. But yeah, they've been doing that a lot.
I mean, yeah, they've been doing that a lot, and I don't feel like it matters. This next card also doesn't really matter. It's Tam Observant Sequencer for 2 and green and blue for legendary creature Gorgon Wizard. You wouldn't be able to tell by the art because it doesn't look like a Gorgon, but it's still a Gorgon Wizard. And that says landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, Tam becomes prepared, and preparing allows you to cast Deep Sight, which is green and a blue for a sorcery that says you may which says you draw a card and gain 1 life. So it's basically Tatiova, Benthic Druid, or AEC, both of which just play those other fucking cards. Don't play Tam. What the fuck are you doing? Also, Tam isn't really like a redundancy piece. It's just more hoops to jump through. Play Tatiova with AC in the 99, or vice versa. Don't really play Tam because it's a waste of mana. And I feel like maybe that's an example of this prepare mechanic, but like sometimes the prepare like spell is so good that it's like you do it anyways. And we'll talk about that more in the later half of this podcast, because we've been talking for an hour and 25-ish minutes, and I swear to God we'll get to the more interesting cards very soon. So next up is a colorless commander. Guy, I kind of want to just skip these 2 colorless commanders.
Oh, okay. If anything, I'd talk about Paige real quick, just because no. I don't want to talk about Paige because Grinder is a irrelevant ability here, and you would never make it work in colorless.
Also, isn't like Cody Voracious Cordex from like the original set much more interesting?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So let's skip these 2.
And also the whole like Dawning Archaic thing, where like there's these archaics. Oh, they want to make them seem different from Eldrazi. Well, too bad. Like Eldrazi have kind of ruined colorless, so like whenever we think of colorless, we think of Eldrazi, and these archaics are not powerful enough / interesting enough to make different commander decks or play in a 99. So fuck you, we're moving on to the 99 after an hour and 26 minutes.
Okay, so here's like the most interesting cycle of cards, I'll say.
Yeah.
We're now they are the Emeritus cycles. Mm-hmm. Yes, the Emeritus cycle. I guess we'll just kind of let's just read them all, and then we'll kind of like talk about them in general. So I'll read this first one. Emeritus of Truth, 1 white, creature cat cleric. When this creature enters, target player creates a 1/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying. Then if an opponent controls more creatures than you do, this creature becomes prepared. Its prepared spell is Swords to Plowshares. And if you need me to read that, maybe you just
need to pick up
any commander deck. Yeah, I was about to say, like, it's a pretty iconic spell. Okay. Emeritus of Ideation. So this is the blue one. 3 blue, creature human wizard. Flying, Ward 2. This creature enters prepared. Whenever this creature attacks, you may exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, this creature becomes prepared. And its prepared spell is Ancestral Recall, which is an instant. Target player draws 3 cards. So that's a reserved list card. So
it's also banned.
Whoa.
It's banned.
Yeah. Black is Emeritus of Woe, 3 black, creature, vampire, warlock. This creature enters prepared. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures die this turn, this creature becomes prepared. And its prepared spell is Demonic Tutor. Play more magic if you need to know what that does. Emeritus of Conflict, the red one, 1 in a red. Creature, human, wizard, first strike. Whenever you cast your 3rd spell each turn, this creature becomes prepared. And its prepared spell is Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to any target. And then the last one is Emeritus of Abundance, 2 and a green. Creature, Elf, Druid, Vigilance. This creature enters prepared. Whenever this creature attacks, if you control 8 or more lands, this creature becomes prepared. And its prepared spell is Regrowth, 1 and a green, sorcery, return target creature. Return target card from your graveyard to the hand. And it's a 3/4. Okay. Just read 5 cards. Thoughts?
Also, can I just say, like, for the record, all 5 of these Emeritus of X and Y are good. All of them.
I agree to some degree. Yes.
All right, we can nitpick. Let's nitpick. Because this is a podcast. So, like, let's rank them, perhaps. Like, what do you think, like, what stands out to you as perhaps not so good?
Probably the green one is the worst, in my opinion.
I think so. Because I can see this being played in an elf deck where, like, turn 1 mana dork, elf, turn 2 play land, like, tap mana dork plus your 2 lands, cast Emeritus of Abundance, it enters prepared, and you can, like, play the regrowth whenever you want. And
well, only as a sorcery, because it's a sorcery. If you're playing it early game, you're not going to have something in your graveyard just yet. Most likely.
Okay, that's fair.
So, to me, like, here's what I'll say. Like, I don't think any of them are bad. It just is more like they depend on what type of deck they go in and when you play them. So I think Emeritus of Abundance would be certainly a good late game card, because it can probably get you anything back, like a key piece. So, okay, from worst to best for me, it's green, red,
all right, because
blue.
Yeah. Also, with the green, you're comparing it to Eternal Witness. You're comparing it to Evolution Witness.
Right.
You're also comparing it to Timeless Witness, all of which are, like, human shamans. And, like, the benefit to this green one is the fact that it is, in true fact, an elf and a druid.
Yeah. So, okay, from worst to best, green, red, blue, black, white. That's my pick. Mainly because I also think red needs to go in a very specific type of deck. It's the only one that doesn't enter prepared. However, it's not that hard to cast 3 spells in certain types of, like, spell slinger decks. And it's the only one that can also re-prepare itself on someone else's turn. Just because, okay, if it becomes prepared on someone else's at the start of someone else's turn, so if it's like, okay, go to next person's turn, this card is prepared, it can cast Lightning Bolt, so that's 1 spell. Cast 2 more spells, it becomes re-prepared, and then maybe cast Lightning Bolt again, or you can just go to someone else's turn, and then, yeah, that's like magical Christmas land in a way, but, like, not impossible.
Yeah.
A lot of damage.
Yeah. It's hard, because, like, I feel like you're correct. It ultimately comes down to, like, what are the conditions it makes to be prepared, and what are the conditions it takes to be re-prepared? What is the conditions to, like, cast these, like, instant sorcery side? Like, most of them are instants, like the red, the blue, and the white, and only the black and the green are sorceries, and also they're only, like, 2 mana, even if they are sorceries. So, like, they're quintessentially powerful, like, commander cards. And so it ultimately comes down to, like, what's the creature cost and, like, what does it take to prepare it. I feel like those are the main factors. And I feel like I mean, I feel like I keep beating it to death, but like this whole cycle is good. This whole cycle is good.
No, I mean, I agree. Like, it's not like I'm saying, oh yeah, green is bad and white is good. It's more like green's still good. It's just that the white one's better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the white one's the best just because
All right. Let me ask you this difficult question. Hear me out, guy. So, Emeritus of Truth. All right, you have it in your mind. Compared
Truce.
to what's the card called? Solitude. Solitude.
Yeah, Solitude.
Give me an analysis on the difference between the two cards.
Solitude's better. I mean, it has flash. I mean, Emeritus of Truce is, I think, interesting because it can kind of be political too. Because you play this, and if it enters prepared, that is actually a downside because it has to enter and see that like someone else has more creatures to allow it to become prepared. But if it is able to come in prepared, which, there is a good chance that it could do that if you're giving your opponent a Inkling token, you're basically holding up Source of Plowshare in a way of saying like, hey, if you're going to do anything to me, I have this. I will use this against you. So it is in a way, a very political card.
So, Guy, I have a question. I feel like, at least in my perspective, like creatures that say this creature enters prepared, you will find a way to abuse it. So, for example, Emeritus of Abundance, the green one, like you can do, what's it called? Sabertooth something?
Oh, Temur Sabertooth.
Temur Sabertooth, yeah. So, like, green... Alright, so, like, Emeritus of Abundance, so, like, ETB, if enters prepared, you can totally abuse that with Temur Sabertooth. And with the blue one, enters prepared, you can totally abuse that with, like, blue flicker effects, right? And then with white... Can you abuse that with the white flicker effects when it enters? Not so much, but like you probably still can. So,
with the white one?
Yeah, the white one, the Truce.
Yeah, I mean, I think in white decks where it can be flickered, that's especially where it's like at its best, but
and the black one...
I mean, Swords of Plowshare is, like, top, 3 cards played in the format, so...
And the Emeritus of Woe, where you have to look at the rules, but I feel like certain reaction effects where it brings it back into play will bring it there, so you can use that. So that's the only one I can't figure out how to abuse, besides being like classic red, where you just play like ritual, like get the lightning bolt effect. Anything?
No, I mean, I think it's red one is definitely the most built around, which is kind of why I ranked it so low. Because I mean, 3 damage to the face is not nothing for 1 red mana.
All right, tell us about the Paradigm Cycle.
Okay, so the Paradigm Cycle is the other mythic cycle in this set. They all have the keyword Paradigm, which is at the end of resolving the ability, you then exile the spell instead of putting it into your graveyard. And so at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, you could then cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Okay. So in a way, it's like Epic, where every turn you get to play that spell once again. But Epic was like, you couldn't cast any other spell. This is not saying that you can't cast spells, but you can at least cast this once per turn. Okay, so this first one is... Oh, and they're all lessons. Not that that matters a ton. Okay, Restoration Seminar. This is the white one. 5 white. Sorcery. Lesson. Return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, blue. Echo Casting Symposium for blue. Sorcery Lesson. Target player creates a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Decorum Dissertation. 3 black. Sorcery Lesson. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Improvisation Capstone. 5 red. Sorcery Lesson. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater. You may cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana costs. And then Germination Practicum. 3 green. Sorcery Lesson. Put 2+1/+1 counters on each of your creatures. I think these are all fine. Like, I'm not gonna lose sleep over them, to be honest. Just because they're all pretty high mana value sorceries. So already if you're like casting them on curve, they're okay. And then, you know, I think they're just okay. I would not run any of these in any deck that I'm thinking of building at the moment.
You wouldn't? Alright, let's compare it to the black one where people have been talking about, what's it, Phyrexian Arena? So...
I mean...
okay, let's just think about it in a vacuum. Like, so we have Decorum Dissertation. It is 3 black, so a 5 mana spell for a sorcery lesson. Target player draws 2 cards, loses 2 life, and adds paradigm. So, how do you feel about that? Like, I know over the years, like, Phyrexian Arena has lost favor. How do you feel about this?
I prefer Phyrexian Arena.
You prefer Phyrexian Arena and like and other things like that?
Yes.
So that's just because it's a smaller front cost. And if it's blown away, like you're like, all right, like it sucks, but it's not like I'm ruined.
Yeah. Basically. Because, like, I don't know. I mean, it's just 5 mana to, like, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life.
All right. Let me rephrase it this way. With the cycle of paradigm spells, are there any of them that are like, wow, I'm going to win the game, like if this continues to be cast like once per turn? White one, blue one, black one. Black one probably not so much. Are there any of them that can win this?
No, I don't think so. Like, I think they're all pretty mild effects, to be honest. They're just overcosted, and the only reason they're overcosted is just the fact that you'll get to cast them for the rest of the game later on. So I'm just like, they're fine. They seem, do you remember back in Commander Legends when they had like a high mana value cycle of sorceries that had some pretty game-ending effects?
Yeah.
But those never really did anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of feels like that.
I'm thinking about I'm thinking about the black one where it's basically Phyrexian Arena. I'm thinking about the blue one where it's basically a +1/+1 mono green counters deck. I'm thinking about the red one. Luckily it's like sorcery lesson, like, and you both know, like, mono red and blue red can abuse sorceries really reliably, but like even that one's like pretty mild, and like the blue and the white one are like very like, so like, I'm happy that it's like not forgettable, but it's also like not gonna be formative.
Yes. Agreed.
Next up, we have the charm cycle. So Mark Rosewater recently did a Drive to Work episode describing charms and like what they mean, and they're all basically 2 mana value, 2 color instants that have 3 modal abilities, and the main advantage of them is that they're super flexible, and even if like most games you choose like 1 or 2 of the abilities, like in theory you have the 3rd ability to activate and make games more interesting. So each school has a charm. So Silver Quill charm is of course white and a black for an instant. Choose 1, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, exile target creature with power 2 or less. Each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. All ultimately pretty tame. I think, in my opinion, the most interesting one is the Prismari charm, which is blue and a red for an instant that says choose 1. Surveil 2, then draw a card. Prismari charm deals 1 damage to each of 1 or 2 targets, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And so because is it colored entity, like this one's probably the most abusable. So I'm just gonna say Prismari charm right here for the record is probably my personal favorite of the cycle. So next up we have Witherbloom charm, which is black and a green instant. Choose 1, you may sacrifice a permanent. If you do, draw 2 cards. You gain 5 life and destroy target non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Lorehold charm, red and white instant. Choose 1. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact of their choice. Return target artifact or creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. And then lastly, we have Quandrix charm, green and a blue for an instant that says choose 1, counter target spell unless the controller pays 2, destroy target enchantment, and target creature has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. So this is a cycle I'm probably the most excited about besides the Emeritus, and that's just because they're easy to cast in instants, which are likely to see play. Guy, what do you think?
I agree. These are like some of the... I think they did something similar. They did a command cycle the first time around, I think, which is very similar, but I think these kinds of cards where it's like, you know, give 3 pretty decent abilities for 2 mana that you get to choose from, and they're all pretty flexible and things that these colors want to do. Yeah, I can see these being slotted into decks kind of similar to how, like, you know, you see Boros charm, Rakdos charm, those are like really common cards that just get played a lot. So I feel like that these have some of the potential to do that too. I'd agree that like Prismari charm is probably the best of them, just because it could be card filtration, potentially kill spell, or like a bounce spell, whether it's for you to protect your own stuff or to bounce a problematic thing that's coming to attack you or make things pretty big. Yeah. So I think yeah, they're all decent for sure.
All right, so it's been quite a journey so far. I think we're going to wrap it up here for now. We've been talking for quite a long time, and we've discussed the plane, we've discussed the mechanics, we've talked about major commander options. We've gone through a number of the various cycles for the 99, and I think we'll just kind of wrap up here. And then in part 2, we will talk about the individual 99, like the white, the blue, black, red, green, and the colorless. And hopefully that one will be a little bit shorter than this one.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, with that all being said, we'll do our standard outro. We are the Wizard Staff Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and pretty much any other like streaming platform that you get your podcasts. You can find us also on Blue Sky at Wizard Staff 101. You can send us an email at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com if you want to bitch or complain about how stupid we are. Thank you again so much for listening, and we hope to have a great night and see you in part 2. Peace out.
Peace.